Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you all for tuning in, however you may be doing so, because, of course, we're up in a whole lot of ways for you to be able to enjoy and even participate in the show here. Of course, today is Saturday, September 3rd, 2022, and today we are talking about another investigation and conference on a lot of different aspects of both our local and interconnected, both regional and international history here in the area, as we are talking about the 2022 Binational History Conference and Cultural Expose coming up a little bit later this month here. You can, of course, find us live on air, online, live streaming on ktsmradio.com, and with full video on the El Paso History Radio Show Facebook page and YouTube channel, with more features even available there, as well as on the Facebook page, Remember in El Paso When, and this is the place where we do say Texas history begins in El Paso. We do have a history moment today at the top of hour 2 from documentary filmmaker Jackson Polk, today talking about R.E. Thomason and the many impacts and somewhat familiar names for those of a certain age anyway on his contributions to the region here. So joining us here in studio today, guest right now is Al Borrego, with, of course, the Cultural Heritage Society of the Camino de Tierra, Adentro. Thank you very much for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me, Andrew.
Absolutely, because we've had you on, of course, previously, and a lot of the discussions and things people may be familiar with you focusing on here. Again, if they've listened previously, they may be thinking, wait, didn't we just talk about a conference here? Didn't we talk about something? And that was about 6 months ago, so about half a year ago. But yes, there was another conference, but this one is similar in, let's just call it, some of the general topics, but its scope is much expanded.
Exactly. Yeah, this covers the whole Camino Real de Tierra Adentro.
So when we're talking about this, and again, we have the full schedule here, and of course, people can see what we're talking about if they go over to culturalheritagesociety.com. But again, the Binational History Conference and all of the stuff that comes along with it here. Again, that's going to be happening September 8th through the 11th here. So coming up shortly, and it is going to be, well, an extensive set of events that you have coming up here, several days of events here, and even multiple different courses of examination that are coming through here, or sometimes literal courses of food involved with it here, because right, as we talked about last time, one of the things that always stands out to me and often to others here, as we get a little bit closer looking at part of the agenda here, you can see here that is going to be happening in multiple ways, in multiple different spaces and different countries here, starting out in Juarez and then Socorro, and then, of course, virtual programming online, so people can catch all of that here. But, I mean, the Binational Heritage Tourism, Tribes of the Camino Real Connections, World Heritage, Gastronomy of the Camino Real. One of the ones that always stands out to me and that people bring up to me saying, gastronomy? They may have a vague conception of the phrase here, but thinking about, we're talking about food, right? Because in general, we're talking about culture, we're talking about heritage, and one of the ways that shows up more often than not, honestly, is kind of through food, among the many other things you're going to be talking about here.
Right. We always talk about food. You know, food will be one of the biggest things at this conference. It's always one of the biggest things for all of us, I think. You just look at the food, you can I always talk about enchiladas. Here in El Paso, you know, we usually lay them flat and put an egg on top. And then you go up into New Mexico and they're asking you, do you want them red or green or purple? You know,
the state question,
right? So you've got all this difference. Mexico City, it's completely different. I mean, they're all different as you come along the Camino Real, 1,600 miles. As you come along that road, you'll see things changing. It's not only in the enchiladas, but it's almost every single cultural food that we have that connects us. We all have the same gastronomy all the way up and down, but there's such a variation as it comes up the miles.
So essentially that is, and again, the major difference between the conferences, as we have talked about, at least on this program here, is that the one that you had earlier this year was primarily focused on a lot of these heritage aspects, but all through kind of San Rosario and
Correct.
The local mission trail, kind of as a slight expansion there. But this one is looking at the entirety of the Camino Real, again, Camino Real de Tierra Adentro, which goes, I mean, from Mexico City all the way up to, you know, points north in New Mexico
right.
here, and all the points in between here is really the lens you're taking through with this conference, right?
Right. Yeah. It's a bunch of work that we've done for years of connecting all of the municipalities that are along the Camino, trying to get to know them. Get part of that agenda is the sister cities concept of it, where we connect all the cities so we can all work together and economic development and education, promotion, preservation. So if we can get all the municipalities working together, we can preserve this great road. So there's a lot of things that come into play. That's one of the biggest focus, of course, in this one is the sister city signing, where we're bringing in 10 new sister cities that will both become sister cities with the city of Socorro and the city of San Elizario. So we've already have 9 cities that are already part of the system. Some of them that are here on the U.S. side, Mesilla, Doña Ana, those cities are also in. So that's one of the biggest part that we have. And we'll be doing that this weekend as well, this coming weekend.
And so kind of the whole sister cities concept is often an interesting one here and often based on some kind of, civic goal that has been brought up here. But this is one, again, we're very focused on the connections, the shared culture, the history, and the impact of being on, the royal roads, to roughly translate it into English there, that connected and pretty much defined this part of European expansion and settlement in the, what is now the American Southwest.
Correct.
And, of course, beyond and north and south.
Yep. It's the whole way. So, this is this whole conference brings together the work that we're doing. Of course, the ultimate goal is to see if we can expand what is now UNESCO World Heritage, which is half of the road, mainly on the Mexican side, and now we want to finish it, which is the binational part of it, which is the state of Chihuahua all the way up into northern New Mexico.
And people may have seen, or at least I've been noticing, but I also pay attention to these kind of things here, but people may have noticed that there has been some increasing recognition along this side of the border here, at least in our local region here, with more roadside signs, more of those, Camino Real, Historic Way, those kind of things that are not necessarily the kind of plaques that you were talking about here with the full recognition, but at the very least it's some kind of local recognition that particularly when you're along parts of Doniphan, you are more or less on the route that was, again, maybe not quite exactly, but essentially the roadway is the closest spiritual successor anyway as the actual Camino Real would have been.
Right. Yeah, that's so important here in El Paso County, which is the only part in Texas that actually has part of I think it's about 42 miles of the actual Camino goes through Texas. So that part has been really well exposed now with the new signage. I think we have 113 signs.
No, really, that many? Okay.
Something like that. Yeah, that went up. It was a great effort, and it finally came to fruition, and they're up there now. So now people see more Camino Real de Tierra Adentro. They see it more and more. New Mexico is really well documented as well. They've been ahead of us in the game, but I think Texas actually we've come through. I mean, we're doing really good. So as we go doing all of these connections and declarations and everything, all the work that has to go in to the possibility of a UNESCO nomination, that's what we're doing.
So that goal you're talking about there, the UNESCO nomination here, obviously this is the first part of that phrase here, UN, United Nations here. This is obviously an international process that it takes there. So for, as a purpose of this conference that you got coming up again, September 8th through 11th, to explore some parts of these and get more interest. I mean, those are some of the ultimate goals you're working at here. Just to put it in perspective then, what does that take to be able to get that kind of a designation? And then, what are the requirements that come with it?
Well, it's actually an inscription once you get to that point. But it takes a lot of work, and that's part of the conference here. We'll discuss the projects that are going on to reach that point where we can actually put in our nomination for it. But the beauty of what we're doing here is it's a binational effort. So that gives us a lot better place in the list. So it puts us up ahead. And when you do something like, I think there's only been one other one. It was France and Spain when they did their inscription. They got it for both. But that's the only other time that it's been done. So it'd be beautiful to see another one. And I'm sure UNESCO would like to see it between Mexico and the U.S. But I know that the Mexican entities that did it in 2010, on the Mexican side, that's the entity, INA, which is National Institute of History and Anthropology. So that organization is the one that did the actual inscription for the Mexican part of it. Of course, it's not all of Mexico, but
sure,
we got a chunk here in Chihuahua that isn't done. That's why we're kind of lucky
That's what you mean
that it's going to be a binational effort to expand the inscription. I don't think we can actually expand the actual inscription that there is now, because it would bring back into view the other cities that are already in there. 55 elements and 6 entire cities are in that inscription in the Mexican side. So now we bring in all of our part. We do the work. We do all of the work for each individual element and see what we get in ours, what gets accepted.
So essentially
and give us that plaque.
Not trying to mess with the previous parts here,
Exactly.
essentially, but combining it, well, again, not necessarily combining it, but extending it and connecting the ideas at the very least.
It's definitely an expansion of it, but now you get let's call it the northern part.
Okay.
We can call it something like that. But there's a lot of work. It's harder when you have to reinvent the wheel and try to figure out how to do it than when you have a partner, which is the National Institute in Mexico, that did it already, and they're telling us, okay, this is what it takes. And then we still have all the players. All the players on the Mexican side. So they're the ones that are actually helping us. That's why at this conference on the 8th, we've got the first part of it is hosted by INA on the Mexican side. So that'll start us off. That'll kick us off. We're going to get an example of all the work that they did in southern Mexico on one of their cities, all the work that was done in Valle de Allende, which is the only one that is inscribed. So they're going to show the work that they did there to become part of that inscription. So they're one of the elements. So we'll get to see that. And then the plaque that you see there is actually in Durango, which is another city, which is Ocampo in Durango, and they're a sister city as well. And they have 2 plaques. They have 2 elements there that are actually part of the UNESCO inscription. So we're moving now with our sister cities part of it. We're moving further south, and now we have 2 cities that will be sister cities that are already inscribed. So when UNESCO sees, okay, here's this new inscription nomination, and we've got 20, 40, 50, 100 cities that are already inscribed, I mean, that's going to be beautiful. They're actually working together. They're actually part of that road. Because the UNESCO already talks about the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro. That the road isn't what's inscribed. What's inscribed is the elements on the road.
Right.
See, but the road, they'll talk the road. It goes all the way to northern New Mexico. They say Santa Fe. So they know about it. So let's throw in these new elements, and now we get the northern part, or whatever we want to call it.
Interesting. So again, here joining us in studio is Al Borrego, of course, as part of the putting on the conference here, the 2022 Binational History Conference and Cultural Expose, put on again by the Cultural Heritage Society of the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro and INA, among many others, going to be happening the 8th through the 11th of this month here, being in many different places, including 2 countries, and also online as part of it here. So if people want to find out any information about this, what's the best place for them to go to?
On the website. Yeah.
Yep, Cultural Heritage Society.com is where they can find that and find out all of the all of the details of it here. And so we're going to have to take that first break of our hour right now here. But again, we'll be talking more with Al and more about the conference, more about how it'll work, and many of the topics being explored there. So stay tuned for more here on the El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Baney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archive pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry. Bring your family and out-of-town guests to visit Mission Del Rey Southwest's large showroom at Lee Trevino and Pelicano, and see their website at missiondelrey.com. 915-440-2140 for souvenirs, gifts, and decor. Mission Del Rey Southwest. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Donovan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the Juan and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Donovan, near Loop 375. Call 877-2152. M1 EP Management Corporation is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, invest in real estate. M1 EP manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the website, m1ep.com. M1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation, call 915-592-4549. 915-592-4549.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home Team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com. You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Given-Baney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry. Bring your family and out-of-town guests to visit Mission Del Rey Southwest's large showroom at Lee Trevino and Pelicano and see their website at missiondelrey.com. 915-440-2140 for souvenirs, gifts, and decor. Mission Del Rey Southwest. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Donovan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the Juan and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Donovan, near Loop 375. Call 877-2152. M1 EP Management Corporation is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, invest in real estate. M1 EP manages...
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. We are, of course, the El Paso History Radio Show on Facebook. You can go there for our weekly promo announcements of the topics of what we have coming up for you on the program each week. You can also go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/El Paso History TV, where you can find the El Paso Gold DVDs from Capstone Productions, covering more than the last couple of decades of history production and town, uploaded free and complete for your viewing pleasure, plus the 20 more recent segments from ABC7, our series there with El Paso History TV. Also a reminder to support some of our advertisers. Pepe's Restaurant in Canutillo is open for in-house dining, 6761 Donovan Drive. Call Pepe's at 915-877-2152. Again, 915-877-2152. Home of the one and only margarita. I'm not going to be able to make it out there today because we are moving house this weekend, but if I was going out there, I can guarantee I'd probably be getting the Kroom special, as this about everything I like on it, including a nice crispy fried hard shell taco, one of the chili rellenos, and of course their great chips and salsa. But if I was going out there and not moving, I'd probably be getting the one and only margarita as well. Continuing on the tradition of the great Griggs recipes, again, Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant, 6761 Donovan Drive, 915-877-2152. But of course, joining us here in studio, we are still, of course, talking with Al Borrego with the Cultural Heritage Society of the Camino de Tierra Adentro about the 2022 Binational History Conference and Cultural Expose. So happening over, a full weekend here, September 8th through the 11th. So coming up here very shortly. And you're going to be doing it again, essentially 3-4 places if you include online.
Correct. Yeah.
So the way you're doing that again, and the major difference from the previous time we've talked to you about conferences and things like that, I mean, of course, we're talking about the international implications here, so involving it here, but I'm sure this was no mean feat logistically to get it all working.
Right. It takes some work to make sure that you got all the elements correctly. Where are you going to put these people coming in from out of town? Are they going to be in Mexico? Are they going to be in the U.S.? Do they all have visas? That's one of the biggest feats. We were battling visas for months, but we're looking good. I think we only ended up with 2 people that weren't able to get their visa in time. Of course, we still have a few more days, so you never know.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, particularly as we're roughly the week before here, as we're recording specifically. So again, it'll be happening at the Centro Cultural de las Fronteras in Ciudad Juarez here, and then in Socorro and San Elizario at different points. Again, during over these days, and then again, a lot of this stuff will then be posted online here. So just what will be some differences in between the days, different topics being explored, or how will that work?
Right. The first day will, of course, be in Juarez, like you said, at the Centro Cultural, and that's right by the Pronoffs. It's real close to the International Bridge of the Americas, right by the old museum. The Museum of Art in Juarez. But it's right there. It's a beautiful place as well, and we'll start out there at 9:00 in the morning on Thursday, and that'll be hosted by INA, the National Institute. And they'll be doing the main presentations in there as far as actual historic presentations. That one will be about the work that was done in Mexico and how they went about it, and all of that for the UNESCO inscription in Chihuahua. So the one city in Chihuahua. So that's what we're doing there. And then right after that conference, we'll have a lunch. And then after that, the city of Juarez will host, and the Society of Paso del Norte, the History Society, they'll be hosting a tour of Juarez. We'll have one of those 2 double-decker buses that they have over there in Juarez, and we'll be doing a short tour of the city, and people get to get on that thing and go. So we'll be there. That'll start about 1:00, I figure. And then once we're done with that, then we'll jump over back to our side of the river, and move into their hotels and stuff. And then on Friday morning, we'll start in Socorro, Texas. So I just make sure I say Socorro, Texas, because some people will think I'm saying Socorro, New Mexico. But
no, not that far. No,
not that Socorro. Socorro, Texas, which is right outside of El Paso, actually connected to El Paso. Yep. And we'll be there at the Rio Vista Farm Complex. With the conference and the cultural expose part of it as well. So we'll have a lot of that. We'll start that at 9:00 in the morning on Friday morning with the conferences. And then from there, we'll be there all day in Socorro into the evening. We have live bands playing in the evening, and we go into all that. We have the gastronomy booth set up for live television. So they'll be recording live the cooking. We'll have some VIP guests cooking live there with a chef, a master chef out of Mexico City that'll be here. And then we have local chefs from the local schools of culinary work they'll be here as well doing it. And then we're going to try to capture some other VIPs. If you're out there, Andrew, we'll grab you and make you cook for a little bit. But
see if I can make it.
If you can make it, we'll throw you up there in front of the screen. And but we'll have that going on, and all that'll happen. That's our Friday. Friday will be real interesting. We'll get into the evening with live music. It'll be going till about 10, 11 o'clock at night on Friday. And then Saturday, we'll have a late start on Saturday. We'll actually start around 10:30, 11 in the morning. And we'll also go through some great topics and stuff. And we'll have I like this part. We'll have a round table. I think we have 7 or 8 people on that round table, kind of asking them a lot of different questions. You'll see a lot of different people on that panel. Some local economic development people from Mexico. We'll have mayors on there, and people from the chambers of commerces in Mexico. So we'll have different people on there to answer one of those great questions of why should we be doing this, So that round table will be very interesting. Then after that, we go, of course, to lunch. Coming from lunch, we'll end up heading out to Socorro. To San Elizario. I'm sorry. We'll be going to San Elizario to do our first Sister City signing ceremony. So we'll be doing that in Socorro, and that we'll be out there from 2 o'clock to. I said Socorro again. We'll be in San Elizario.
Yes.
In San Elizario, we'll be there from 2 to 5 o'clock. In San Elizario, we'll do the Sister City signing ceremony with the city. We'll have the Pistoleros de San Elizario doing a show out there. They'll get a short tour of the district, and then we'll head back to Socorro to the celebration. And that'll already be going. That's still going on all day. And then we'll get back with the group out there with the cities, the Sister Cities people. And then we'll do the ceremony in Socorro at 6 p.m. as well. So we'll do that Sister City signing ceremony there. And then we'll work through the night into our entertainment and stuff like that. And then we end the day. And then on Sunday, we'll be doing 3 tours. One of Isleta with the cultural center for the tribe for Isleta Pueblo del Sur. And then we'll move into Socorro and do a tour there of the missions and the brewery and the historic area, of Socorro. And then we'll move to San Elizario and do an actual tour of the chapel and the historic district there too.
Of course, here, because there's a lot to look at, a lot of this here. And of course, a lot of this will also then be presented online towards the end of it here. But tell you what, we got to take that next break right now. So coming out of this break, we'll talk a little bit more about some more of the programming here, but also some of the major topics that will be getting explored here. So again, Al Borrego joining us here in studio with, of course, the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro, the Cultural Heritage Society of the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro, I should say, and the upcoming 2022 Binational History Conference. So stay tuned for more here on the El Paso History Radio Show after this quick break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Baney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archive pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry. Bring your family and out-of-town guests to visit Mission Del Rey Southwest's large showroom at Lee Trevino and Pelicano and see their website at missiondelrey.com. 915-440-2140 for souvenirs, gifts, and decor. Mission Del Rey Southwest. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Doniphan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the one and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Doniphan, near Loop 375. Call 877-2152. M1 EP Management Corporation is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, invest in real estate. M1 EP manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the website, m1ep.com. m1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation, call 915-592-4549. 915-592-4549.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Of course, to talk about some of our other great partners in promoting aspects of El Paso's history, including, of course, a Celebration of Our Mountains. You can find them at celebrationofourmountains.org, or just search up Celebration of Our Mountains. Their actual website, celebmtns.org. A little bit shorter, but you can also redirect you there from celebrationofourmountains.org. Has a lot of events listed and upcoming here, including, of course, the event we're talking about here today, the Binational History Conference, coming up again September 8th through the 11th, including a whole lot more that's going on and around the area, including the fossils of Mount Cristo Rey on September 10th, the Aden Crater Sunset Hike and Moon Gazing on September 10th, and a lot of volcanoes on the schedule there, including the Black Mountain volcano in our area, and then other familiar things such as a Mission Trail Art Crawl on September 18th. Check it out again, celebrationofourmountains.org, to see all of that here, and also some other events we want to remind you about happening in and around the region. On September 12th, the Harvey Girls of El Paso, Texas will meet at the Union Passenger Station Depot at 2 p.m. to listen to train whistles here. A lot of interesting stuff going on out there. If you want to find out information about that, 915-591-2326. Again, 915-591-2326. And then the Southwest chapter of the Railway Locomotive and Historical Society will be meeting at Timo's Mexican Seafood Restaurant on September 14th from 6 to 8 p.m. Also, September 16th, the El Paso Corral of Westerners International number 26 will meet at the Holiday Inn on Sunland Park from 6 to 9 p.m. Talking about Chinese history and legacy in El Paso. And then finally, the rescheduled Secret Society of John Wesley Hardin, scheduled for September 24th over at Concordia. We talked about that previously on the program. Weather, unfortunately, interfered with their performance of it there. So again, September 24th is when that will be happening. Their information on that will be concordiacemetery.org. So again, thanks to our partners for talking about some of these issues here and what's coming up here. But of course, joining us here in studio right now, we do have Al Borrego with the, of course, event coming up here, the Cultural Heritage Society of the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro. A lot of events planned around it happening again the 8th through the 11th, and we were talking a little bit about the nature of some of it anyway, the fact that we are going to be having it happening in 2 countries and really 2 realities, both the real world and online here. I guess the way I think about it, they're increasingly interconnected because making it available to the most people, but the schedule and the specific events that you're going to be talking about are kind of particularly interesting. Got a little bit closer look up here of the actual schedule here, beyond the actual days, the topics that are going to be exposed here or explored. Again, the history that unites us here. One of the ones right at the top here, again, we mentioned a few tribes, the Camino Real Connections, Camino Real World Heritage, Gastronomy of the Camino Real, and Culture of the Camino Real. The top one you do have listed there is Binational Heritage Tourism. And that's a very interesting phrase. Heritage tourism is of itself a subject that we've definitely explored a lot on this program, but particularly in this context, binational heritage tourism, that starts getting to some pretty important topics pretty quick about, beyond, again, fans of this show and people fans of history may be very aware and, happy about the idea of designations for their explorations recognition. But for those that might not quite get it or at the same level, the question often comes up to, okay, great, we've got old stuff, so what? I'm being crass with it because that's the kind of questions that I've gotten to me here. Definitely not my viewpoint on this, but when you get that kind of a sentiment presented to you, because I am sure in the work that you've done with this, you've gotten something on that. Maybe not directly to your face, but maybe once they understand what you're there for. Okay, so it has happened that way. But so this kind of, that concept you're getting there, the binational heritage tourism, kind of starts getting at the heart of, okay, why is this important beyond the fact that knowing what you're from and where you're going is very connected here, but it starts getting kind of to some of those economic questions that people are really end up asking about there, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah. Like you said, I've had that question asked many times. Where does it good for me? Where is it going to make me some money, or how is it going to help me? Well, number one, education. Number one, but yeah, it's always about economic development. Especially that you got to sell it. So if you're going to sell it, it's going to be, it's going to be good for the community. It's going to be good for community pride, as it is. Once a community feels good about itself. I'm working with a lot of small communities, 400 people, 1,000 people, 5,000 people,
okay,
20,000 people. The city of Juarez, 2 million people. So you're dealing with all sizes of communities. So if you can, and it tells you a lot when you become sister cities with a little town like Julimes, 400, 500 people, and then you got a sister city like Ciudad Juarez, and we're talking about San Elizario. So that tells you that they see the importance of becoming a sister city with small communities that are along the Camino Real. I had the director of tourism from Ciudad Juarez go with me on one of these tours of visiting these other communities and giving a testimonial of why are they a sister city and why was it good for them, and what they've gotten from being a sister city with San Elizario and part of this project. This project is the important part of it. Of course, the UNESCO designation, the inscription of being part of the UNESCO Camino Real inscription, that means a lot. Where does it mean a lot? Okay, so where's it going to mean a lot to Socorro? Where's it going to mean a lot to El Paso? I always say look at San Antonio, and if you, like you said, if you do a little research on how San Antonio was before the inscription, and then now what they have, and then all of the politics that were involved of who didn't want to do it, who complained about it, all the meetings, all the public meetings that they had about people complaining, line them all up and see how many people didn't want to do that. And now everybody says, yeah, I was part of it. I was part of when it happened. I was on the wrong side of the fence, but they don't tell you that part.
If you get into the history of it, there were even conversations at certain points, again, talking specifically about San Antonio, bringing up there about demolishing parts of what we now considered, in Texas anyway, sacrosanct parts of the grounds of the Alamo. That was where some of the squabbles, the political bickerings you're referring to there that happened along the way that from, the modern standpoint would be unthinkable, but up until it had a lot of groups involved in doing it, it was more, at certain points, it was almost more than likely. I think bulldozers were started at one point there to literally demolish parts of those grounds here, which may, again, it's kind of seriously, there's other stronger words I want to use there, but again, that's the progression of these things. It's not always been what it has been, even just in concept.
Right. And the Camino is really, I think that's an advantage. San Antonio didn't have, San Antonio actually has a Camino. The Camino Real de Tierra afuera, and it runs right through San Antonio. It was just not the approach they took.
Right.
But it's still out there. I have a speaker that goes with me through all over Spain. We do presentations usually through the month of October. We'll be there again. And he speaks of the Camino Real de Tierra afuera. That's when he'll be here speaking as well with us.
Excellent.
But that's the thing of where does it help us here in our area? How does it help us? Well, like I said, I take these people from the other municipalities that have become sister cities, and they go tell the new cities, hey, look, this is where we're at. This is what we're gaining from it. And we always say we don't want the history of the Camino Real to remain in exhibits in museums, because we're still living on the Camino today, and it's still producing every day. So if we take that approach, that we use the Camino as the avenue to bring everybody together, and then now we all work off each other. And we were talking about baseball teams. It's not about my baseball team's better than your baseball team in this conversation. It's about how can we work together to have a better city and a better community. It's okay that your team's better than my team, but as a whole community, how do we get better? So that's the whole idea of the sister city concept, especially along the Camino, because we have hundreds of cities along the Camino, from the big massive ones of Mexico City, 23 million, all the way to the little town of Española in northern New Mexico, Okeowenge, the actual tribe. So all of those cities can become part of the concept, and now we have everybody working together along the road, which that's what's happening now in this conference. We have 10 new cities coming to become sister cities, and they're all working together. We've had workshops with the National Institute with them on how to work together to bring together all of their elements that they have municipally, so that they can produce a book. Not an actual published book, but a book of all of that they have to offer, as far as a document as far as the inscription. So every municipality, what they end up doing is they actually get designated. They designate that the Camino Real coming through their municipality is a municipal cultural landmark, which not everybody does. Everyone's like, well, why even do that? Well, if you've got 500 of them, I think you got some power.
Yeah, and again, the connections that it draws there, ties that bind all those kind of concepts here, but then directly linking all of these kind of sites and different places together. You want to talk about, tourism aspects of it being as yes, you can come visit this part of it here, but all the other places you can go to see all of this here, just makes a lot of sense to me. But tell you what, we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, talk a little bit further about this concept and how, again, this conference and all the aspects help to explore it. So stay tuned for more here on the El Paso History Radio Show. After this quick break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Baney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archive pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry. Bring your family and out-of-town guests to visit Mission Del Rey Southwest's large showroom at Lee Trevino and Pelicano, and see their website at missiondelrey.com. 915-440-2140 for souvenirs, gifts, and decor. Mission Del Rey Southwest. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Doniphan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the one and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Doniphan, near Loop 375. Call 877-2152. M1 EP Management Corporation is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, invest in real estate. M1 EP manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the website, m1ep.com. M1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation, call 915-592-4549. 915-592-4549.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588 1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. Got to mention at least one of our other great partners in promoting some different aspects of local history, but they also mentioned some of the stuff we do, so very much returning the favor here. Rick Kern's music podcast, Talk and Rock Radio. Find him online at talkandrockradio.com, exploring many of the interesting musical aspects of El Paso's history, or slightly more recent history, I guess you could put it, including a lot of his own personal involvement. Rick's there with some of the great bands that came out of kind of the, I'm not going to call it the golden age of rock and roll, but definitely one of the most active periods in town. But how it also continues to this day, including reunions, modern productions, all that kind of stuff. So again, check them out, talkandrockradio.com. And of course, if you want to find out about real estate investments and possibilities here in town for homes for sale or rent, call 915-588-1850. That's 915-588-1850 for Patrick Tuttle, Coldwell Banker Heritage Real Estate. Patrick and his team, excellent group of realtors that have done a lot of great work for our family, including getting the house that I'm moving into this weekend here, and a lot more for our family. So definitely recommend them for, again, El Paso homes for sale or rent. Call him, again, 915-588-1850, and find your next home or place to live here. But again, joining us here in studio right now, do have Al Borrego talking about the upcoming Binational History Conference. It's going to be happening September 8th through the 11th in Ciudad Juarez, Socorro, Texas, and San Rosario, Texas, as well as online following up there. So we were delving real hard into one of the major parts of it here on the agenda. But of course, there's a lot more that's going to be getting explored there. Just talk a little bit about how these topics were selected in order to kind of be investigated this way.
Well, the main topics were selected because that's what we really have to work on. That's the part that we really have to work on. And then we want to let the public know exactly how far we've gotten along on these topics. You know, how are we doing with the connections? How are we doing with gastronomy? We got a book that we're working on, that kind of stuff. They'll learn about all that we've been doing and what it takes, what it actually takes to do it. Learn more about the culture, about the tribes. Where do the tribes fit into this? You know, I mean, that's a big element that'll come out.
Absolutely here. And so, again, it's very much internationally focused, both locally and with all the groups that are coming to it here. And you've done quite a lot of travel going around investigating both some of these subjects and, again, making those agreements, those sister city agreements that'll be very interesting as part of the feature of what you got going on here with this. And, again, you have another about not quite dozen new cities coming on. You said 10 new ones, right?
Right, 10 new cities coming on. Yeah.
To be a part of the project and make some of those declarations as being involved with this here. And, again, all going towards the idea of furthering, again, both local knowledge, of course, here being important to it here, but also some of those designations as well as some of those potential economic impacts that I think pique more than a little bit of interest here, but we'll have to get more into that here in the next hour of the program here, short timing it here already. So we're going to take that top of the hour news break here. So again, you are tuned into the El Paso History Radio Show. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. That's Al Borrego, again, talking about the 2022 Binational History Conference. More on this after this break and the top of the hour news here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Baney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry. Bring your family and out-of-town guests to visit Mission Del Rey Southwest's large showroom at Lee Trevino and Pelicano and see their website at missiondelrey.com. 915-440-2140 for souvenirs, gifts, and decor. Mission Del Rey Southwest. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Doniphan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the one and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Doniphan, near Loop 375. Call 877-2152. M1 EP Management Corporation is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, invest in real estate. M1 EP manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the website, m1ep.com. M1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation, call 915-592-4549. 915-592-4549.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his legacy home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com. You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Given-Baney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry. Bring your family and out-of-town guests to visit Mission Del Rey Southwest's large showroom at Lee Trevino and Pelicano and see their website at missiondelrey.com. 915-440-2140 for souvenirs, gifts, and decor. Mission Del Rey Southwest. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Doniphan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the one and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Doniphan, near Loop 375. Call 877-2152. M1 EP Management Corporation is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, invest in real estate. M1 EP manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the website, m1ep.com. M1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation, call 915-592-4549. 915-592-4549.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his legacy home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com. You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Given-Baney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archive pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, whether it's joining us on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or over on our various social media pages. We have the El Paso History Radio Show on Facebook, El Paso History TV, over on the YouTube channel, and of course on some of our partner pages, including Remember in El Paso When. Starting out hour 2 of the program, as we usually do, with a history moment from documentary filmmaker Jackson Polk, talking today about R.E. Thomason and, why you might know about and be familiar with that name.
Robert Ewing Thomason was a well-known El Paso lawyer who contributed in many ways to the quality of life in the city. The county hospital was named after him in 1963. In 2009, the hospital's board of directors changed its name to University Medical Center of El Paso, but Thomason continues to be honored. The hospital building at the medical center was renamed Thomason Tower. When Thomason came to El Paso from Tennessee in 1911, he practiced law in a firm with Thomas Callaway Lee Jr., who was mayor of El Paso and father of the famous artist. Thomason was a member of the Texas House from 1917 to 1921 and served as Speaker from 1920 to 1921. Thomason, a Democrat, was mayor of El Paso from 1927 until 1930, when he was elected to the U.S. House. He represented El Paso on Capitol Hill until 1947, when he took a seat on the federal bench. President Harry S. Truman nominated Thomason as a judge of the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Texas. He was confirmed by the Senate and remained on the bench until his death in November 1973. He was 94 years old. Robert E. Thomason was a Freemason and also belonged to Elmida's Shrine. In 2016, President Barack Obama signed into law a bill that named the former federal courthouse in El Paso the R.E. Thomason Federal Building and United States Courthouse. I'm Jackson Polk with this history moment for the El Paso History Radio Show.
Also a mention of some of our other great partners in El Paso history work. Barbara Given-Baney, who is the operator of the great Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, which you can, of course, also catch these videos on. Go there for archive pictures galore, more than 33,000 members, and it's no mean feat to keep such a large group on task and away from spam and other things, shall we say, and they do a very good job at it. So both with the pictures and the history that is displayed there, if you're going to use any of those pictures, quotations, etc., the admins have worked very hard in researching for the photos with our history attached. If you're going to use them, they ask that credit be given to their site here, but also, again, a lot of credit being given to the staff and the managers of the page there, including Chief Admin, Owner, and Historian Barbara Given-Baney, more affectionately known as BGB. Also, admins Rick Rick Duncan, Rick Nahara, Margaret D. Smith, and moderators Ben Vincent and Al Lowe. Again, a lot of work goes into everything that they do there. You may think it's just a Facebook page, but it's so much more than that. And again, they're always looking for a little bit of additional help, so reach out to them if you want to find out about what you can do to help with, again, many of the considerations of our local history and how it's presented here. And speaking about such things, about history and presentations of it, again, joined here in studio by Al Borrego, of course, talking about the upcoming Cultural Heritage Society of the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro Binational History Conference and Cultural Expose coming up September 8th through the 11th here. I'll begin just a little bit later this month, less than a couple of weeks away now, and it's going to be happening in both Ciudad Juarez, Socorro, Texas, and San Elizario, Texas, in all those different places, and also online in its own way, as you'll be presenting a lot of the things there. So we've been talking a lot about some of the history involved with it, the connections of the Camino Real, both north and south, up into New Mexico and down all the way into Ciudad Juarez, and down even further, of course, into DF and Mexico City. So all of these connections at all the points in between, a lot of shared history there. And so that idea of then the tourism that comes with it, because again, recognition of history is ever so slightly important to us here, but then a lot of questions come up about, okay, but then the kind of okay, but kind of question as the way I kind of conceive of it here. And so we were talking a lot about the first hour there about, okay, how these connections are important and how they further things. But again, I think it still comes down to a lot of people about, okay, you're mentioning tourism here. The idea that people want to come and see this kind of thing, both, I mean, it's inherent to me, it makes sense to me, but apparently a lot of people that it doesn't make sense to.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people don't see it. I think in more recent years, you've seen a lot, everybody started talking cultural heritage tourism. Mm-hmm. So heritage tourism is kind of a new word in the tourism industry. The thing is that like we were talking about earlier, we talked about, hey, well, there's always SeaWorld and there's always Disneyland.
Oh, sure.
And those big ones. But cultural heritage tourism, if you actually go look, you can see how much money it actually brings into a community. The numbers are there. So the thing is that, just like I tell people, just because it's old doesn't make it historic,
No, sure.
So you have to either, you can take things that people just could care less about, and you can actually make them into something that's really cool. San Elizario, it was sitting there, and yeah, people went, and the number one attraction, of course, was a chapel that you've got on there now.
Of course.
And the chapel was the main place. Everybody went to the chapel. Few people knew about the museum sitting right in front of it, because it was hard to tell that was actually a museum, and it was pretty dead all the time. So now you start putting flags out in front every day when you open it, so people know it's open. And so everybody starts seeing things more. Later on, we opened up the jail museum. Mm-hmm. Once we opened up the jail museum, now you're getting pretty close to 10,000 people a month in there, until COVID hits. And, of course, that goes down, so now you got to get everything going again. But that's where we were, So now it's building up again. Everything's going back up. You start creating more events, historic events, like the Billy the Kid Shootout that we do every month. We do two free shows every month on third Sunday. So people start coming, and they like that. The town's not actually that small, the historic district. So you got people walking around. You don't really see anything. But the moment the show starts, you got 100, 200 people sitting in front of you ready to watch the show in the hot sun. Mm-hmm. So that's the cultural heritage tourism that we're talking about. But you have to expose those things. If you don't expose them and you don't make them a big deal, it's no deal.
That's why you have the cultural expose part of it here, because again, the focus on here, making sure that people understand what's part of it here. And you were talking a lot there about specifically, the San Elizario aspects of it here, but again, the whole Binational History Conference and the history that unites us concepts you're exploring here is about connecting all of these points, again, all along the very long length of the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro, and how that history, the culture, all of that is drawn straight through to the modern day. I mean, particularly when we're talking about, like, say, the chapel there at San Elizario, or any of the local mission trail, all of that here, I mean, those are still active parishes, among other things. So it's not it's not kind of, moldy history, so to speak, where it's, ruins, things where things no longer exist, which, I mean, not to say that those sites aren't important here, but it's different when it's still active. It's not that it stopped here like The example I think of is, of the Pantheon in Rome here. Like, sure, it's definitely an incredibly ancient historic building, but it has been in common use ever since its construction, never in a gap there. And we're talking about many of the similar kind of usages throughout history of our local sites here and many sites along the Camino Real.
Exactly.
Even when we're just talking about the roadbed itself here, a lot of the times, again, maybe not exactly because, burro paths and carts and carretas would have a slightly different pathways it would have taken. So, in modern paving, I'll take it, definitely. But still, those kind of common pathways and the connections still literally in place there, still to modern day. And that just, I guess, so therefore people may almost discount it somewhat, think like, well, but we're still using it, so it's not like that kind of historic. But that makes it almost even more important in my mind.
Right. That's what you have to do. That's why the Cultural Heritage Society is here. That's why we're there to let each town, and exactly the way you're saying it. Once we make these connections, then we get all of these towns to identify what they have. Because they don't, like you just said, you don't even realize where you're at because you use it every day. And we're all in the same Camino. So we've gone into these towns and cities and said, okay, identify what you have. Even in Juarez. Yeah. In Juarez, they didn't realize what they have. You should see all the tour things that they're doing now. But they weren't doing them not long ago. You just went over there to party at night. That was it. Go to the bullfights.
Not me personally, but yes, I know.
Yeah, I saw you over there. But you know what I mean? I mean, it's like San Luis. When we do the Ability Kids show there, I like to use that as an example because that's where the whole idea comes from. But when we do the Ability Kids show out there, we do a narration before the show. And we tell them, look, the road you're standing on right now is the oldest main street in the U.S. We also tell them, as it is, you're right on the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro. If you make a left-hand turn here at the stop sign, you'll go down a windy road for about 3/4 of a mile. That's the original, actual path the carretas took. Mm-hmm. And the people drive it every day. They don't even realize where they're driving. They don't have a clue. But if you identify it and then you expose it, it makes it important. There's way many things that are important like that we're developing now in San Luis, like the carrizo. It's the thatch that they use in the ceilings with the vigas and the dirt on top of it that they use for years. We got a lot of those buildings there in San Luis. You can see them, and we have the thatch sitting there. People complained, hey, it looks bad. Well, now we're going to actually make it a historic landmark, a municipal historic landmark. That is what they use to make that. So you start doing that. We have the rebote. It's a handball court that's been there forever. So we're going to make that a historic landmark in the town. You start developing these landmarks and identifying them and designating them. Now when a tourist comes into town, you can give him a list of all these landmarks and he's got somewhere to go. And he goes, wow, so really there's a history? Like, what about this handball court? What did it mean? How did it work? When was it developed? Where does it come from? So you start developing all these items, all these elements, which make up a UNESCO declaration. And once you get that declared, you get an inscription from UNESCO.
Right.
So all of those elements that you put in there can make you actually a city that's identified the whole darn city as a UNESCO gets the inscription. So that's what we're developing as a society. We go into these towns and we say, okay, we do a workshop and we tell them this is how you do it. This is how you get the information. Go out there and hunt it down. They're finding old haciendas that they didn't even realize. Oh, so that's what that was. Oh, what? Benito Juarez stayed there one night? What? So that kind of stuff. You start developing your stuff, and now you have economic development because now people, when they go there, they have things to see. Before, you could go to San Luis, and one of the biggest complaints I used to have from the Convention Bureau was there was no restrooms there. So how can I send people down to San Luis when they don't even have anywhere to go to the bathroom? So that's a big element. Yeah. Now we have bathrooms everywhere. So no excuses. So you start creating. Right. You create, what was that movie? Build it and they'll come.
Yeah, if you build it, he will come.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the concept right there. And you have to have the infrastructure to receive people. So that's the economic development aspect. Now, once you have all those elements, then let's use the big game that we have, which is the Camino Real, that connects all of these municipalities. So people, when I'm doing a conference in Mexico City, they'll say, well, do you ever travel the whole Camino? And I'm like, well, I have, but if somebody wants to travel the Camino, what are they going to see along the Camino? So anybody along the Camino from Mexico City to Okeowenge, and they develop what they have, you just got yourself a bunch of tourists.
Because, I mean, it takes putting it all together, and I guess really to bring it home then, I mean, these kind of both the sites that are, significant and, very beautiful on their own right here, but also then connecting them and making them a part of each other, and then making it more easily digestible almost. I mean, I don't mean to say that it has to be simple, but making it accessible. People will then seek that out and then be a part of it here. Again, that's Al Borrego joining us here in studio here, of course, with the Cultural Heritage Society of the Camino de Tierra, Adentro, talking about that upcoming Binational History Conference and Cultural Expose happening this upcoming, September 8th through the 11th here, all in Sierra Guada, Socorro, Texas, and San Rosario. So a whole lot of details there. And again, you can go to culturalheritagesociety.com to see that. We got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, talk a little bit more about both these concepts and some of the more ones that will be explored as part of this conference. That is, of course, free of charge to attend here. So stay tuned for more here on the El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Givenbaney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archive pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry. Bring your family and out-of-town guests to visit Mission Del Rey Southwest's large showroom at Lee Trevino and Pelicano and see their website at missiondelrey.com. 915-440-2140 for souvenirs, gifts, and decor. Mission Del Rey Southwest. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Doniphan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the Juan and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Doniphan, near Loop 375. Call 877-2152. M1 EP Management Corporation is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, invest in real estate. M1 EP manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the website, m1ep.com. M1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation, call 915-592-4549. 915-592-4549.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'll tell you a little bit about what we got working on for you coming up on the show here next week. We're going to be re-airing our interviews and all of the things going on with the Frontera Land Alliance and their many efforts and ongoing presentations, including preservation and education out there. So stay tuned for that one coming up again next week here on the program. program here, and more to come even after that. Just to give you a little bit of an extra preview, going to be talking even further about some of the different aspects of our history and the way it is being presented, including, of course, a little bit more with the 12 Travelers as we get closer to that event here. More on, again, some of the renewed events, including that rescheduling of the John Wesley Hardin Secret Society, and a whole lot more, so stay tuned for all of that here on the program here. But, of course, one more sponsor to remind you about, Mission Del Rey Southwest. They are a great place, too, for, say, kind of related to heritage tourism. Great place for out-of-town visitors for souvenir, jewelry, gifts, and decor items. Both the literal and figurative flavor of the Southwest and the cultures around here, including Native American pottery and goods, local cultural goods, and foodstuffs as well, so that they can get here locally. That is definitely, again, the literal flavor of the Southwest if you really want to get them there. They've also got a great selection of patio furniture currently, so if you really want to decorate your own abode currently, they've got their cast aluminum, but they look like they're the cast iron, but they won't crush your foot quite as bad if it happens to fall in it there. So a great outdoor styling, a lot of stuff. I'm always surprised whenever I find something there. So again, you can go there to missiondelrey.com. They do ship around the world there as well. Maybe not the patio furniture as much, but hey, if you want to ask, they certainly can give you the answer. You can also, again, visit in person their 12,000 square foot showroom on Lee Trevino, right there at the intersection with Pelicano. Mention the El Paso History Radio Show for a discount. Give them a call at 915-440-2140, 915-440-2140. But again, joining us here in studio, Al Borrego, the Cultural Heritage Society of the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro, and the Binational History Conference and Cultural Expose, all of that stuff that's going to be going on there. And we're talking a lot about the heritage tourism part of it, because I personally don't feel it's focused on enough here, but all of the cultural parts of it and the stuff that does attract people here, because there's always a subset of people that will want to go and see historic sites, places, stuff where things happen, or those stuff where it's going on. But I think more people necessarily realize that also want to go and see the cultural parts of it that are there. I mean, sure, if a site is significant, but not that much is going on there, okay, I can go there. Most people, I think, might go there for a little bit, but then want to go see something else. But that's another very critical part that you will be showing the whole Under the Tent events going on with dance, art, food, crafts, and more, that is all intertwined with all of these sites and still occupied sites that you're talking about here, right?
Right. Yeah, we'll have entertainment by the Tigua social dancers, that kind of stuff. We'll have folklorico dancers, singers, bands, all that kind of stuff will be shown. The gastronomy, cooking, you can see how they actually make their stuff. Most of the cities, I'm not going to say all of them, but most of the cities that are coming in, aside of all of our sister cities, all 19, they'll have booths set up showing you their goods, their crafts that they have, their candies that you see that you might never see if you don't go over there, but we're trying to entice you to get over there to go buy your own.
Of course.
But you'll get to see that. You'll see wine coming in from Chihuahua, Sotol coming in from Durango. You'll see tequila coming in from the area here. Of course, craft beer. All of that stuff that we have as part of the Camino, you'll get to see at the cultural expose. Like I said, there's all kinds of musicians coming in. We're still trying to get one of the Tarumaras, one of the Raramuri natives that plays the piano to come in and play the piano. That's one of the ones we're still having trouble with his visa, but if we can get him in here, we'll definitely have him in here. But we do have some other ones that'll be here.
Excellent. So again, the idea of the living history, but I almost hesitate to use that phrase because I think a lot of people get the idea of, reenactments or like, the villages where people dress up and act out the way that they would have at that point in time. But living history in that it is still alive from when even the historic periods we're talking about here, very critical concept here. And again, one that you all are exploring, again, part of the Binational History Conference is going to be happening in Ciudad Juarez, Socorro, Texas, San Rosario, and of course online September 8th through the 11th. Again, all the details on that online at culturalheritagesociety.com. We got to take that next break right now, but coming out of this break, we'll talk some more about those, cultural heritage and the connections of it, but also the gastronomy of the Camino Real and the gastronomic history here. So stay tuned for more here on the El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Bainey, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry. Bring your family and out-of-town guests to visit Mission Del Rey Southwest's large showroom at Lee Trevino and Pelicano and see their website at missiondelrey.com. 915-440-2140 for souvenirs, gifts, and decor. Mission Del Rey Southwest. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Doniphan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the Juan and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Doniphan near Loop 375. Call 877-2152. M1 EP Management Corporation is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, invest in real estate. M1 EP manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the website, m1ep.com. M1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation, call 911.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. Be sure to check out this week the stories you'll be able to find only in El Paso Inc. They have a number of the ones as they do a lot of investigation into some of the deeper topics that really need to be explored in our area. But of course, you can also see their episodes and their stories every week for what our upcoming episodes are going to be in the El Paso Inc. The promos running there, so be sure to check them out and support them. El Paso's Business Journal, El Paso Inc. is available for home or business delivery. To receive El Paso Inc., make sure to order it online or even see their stories if you got that subscription at elpasoinc.com. But again, in any case, joined here again in studio by Al Borrego with the Cultural Heritage Society of the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro and all the aspects they will be exploring of that history and the Camino Real as it comes up here with the 2022 Binational History Conference and Cultural Expose happening again September 8th through the 11th. So coming up here very shortly, and even as we've been doing some of the recording here, you've been having to deal with some of the logistical issues, right? I mean, a lot of moving parts and a lot in progress for this conference, right?
Yeah, a lot of moving parts. You're right.
That I can only imagine here, because as much as doing this show is complicated, everybody will be putting on this for, again, many days, many different aspects of it here. And so one of the ones that always, again, people often point it out to me whenever they hear it described here, but I've also been interested in as well, the gastronomy of the Camino Real. The way you're all talking about it there, flavors and history of the Camino Real, Binational project promoting the links of the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro and the flavors of it, of course, there. So, I mean, sure, there are some old jokes about the nature of, Mexican food or Tex-Mex or all those kind of things here. But even if we're talking about similar styles, shall we say, as you were kind of describing it a bit earlier, the things and the way that they are then created, done even between these different towns. You're talking about some of the ones that are, say, in closer proximity in some of the southern reaches of the Camino Real that we're talking about can have their differences and different flavors that go with it, right?
Right. Yeah, it's amazing how different some things are, but they're the same, but they're different. One of the biggest things that I noticed, like from Mexico City, is as an appetizer, they'll lay a little bowl of Spanish rice, and they'll put an egg on top of it, a fried egg. Okay. And I had never seen that. I mean, I saw this many years ago, but I had never seen it. And when I saw it, I was like, "What? What is this?" Well, just eat it. Well, if you can do it at home because we have Spanish rice and we have eggs.
Absolutely.
But it's amazing just how good it is. Just plain like that. It's an appetizer. So that kind of stuff. We talked about an egg on top of the enchiladas or not an egg and that kind of stuff. But it changes all along the way. I mean, you'll have tacos made different ways. Over there, rolled tacos are flautas to us, So there are all kinds of different flavors, different chilies, different using pomegranate in fillings for the chilies. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. And when you start to learn that and you learn the history of it, it really gets good.
Yeah, you got some examples of some of your tours here to this showing some of the traditional canning here, like the cloth top canning here, and the way they would have sealed there, and of course how that would be used there from this one particular area that you went to, right?
It's a hacienda down there by Mexico City, and it's just amazing how they've preserved what this hacienda was doing back then. And they still have in that hacienda. They've got the old cars the old carretas they used to use. Then they graduated to a more modern horse-drawn carriages and stuff. And then they have the lady that's there. She's one of the family members. She has a Ford Mustang.
Okay.
Because that's our newest horse. But it's an old car. It's like a 60-something.
Yeah.
You know? But she made that comment. It's our newest horse. But it's a Ford there. Of course, Ford had his plant there in Mexico City. One of the first plants he had was there in Mexico City.
Oh, that's true here. And particularly for this hacienda, they actually have a lot of them collected as a cookbook there as well here. So they are both keeping the tradition alive that way as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's just an awesome place. The INA, the National Institute of Anthropology and History, which work with one of our partners in this whole project, and the Cultural Heritage Society, we've been working on a cookbook of the whole region, of all the 12 states that make up part of the Camino Real. And we got sidetracked during COVID. We were working really good. We got sidetracked during COVID. So some of the people that were working with us are no longer there. So we've started to regroup on this book, and we're ready to put it out. Actually, the San Isidro Genealogy and Historical Society is also working with us on that book, because they originally started working with us. So they're still part of the project. But we wanted to introduce the book at this conference, but I think we won't be able to do it until April.
Okay.
But, I know we won't be able to do it till April. But the gastronomy is amazing. So here at the conference, we'll have, like I said, we'll have all these different cities. Parral is really well known for their candy. They have a place called Gota de Miel. It's got like the sweetest candy in the world, right? So we were in Camargo, and one of the testimonies was coming from Parral, because they're already a sister city. And one of the girls, she was director of tourism there, went with us to Camargo, and they gave us a tour of the town, and we went to a candy store.
Okay.
And they had very similar candy. And the girl from Parral says, well, we have the best one. And then she opens theirs, and she goes, this candy's better than ours. So that kind of stuff is really fun stuff, because you go to Parral and it's like excellent. Then you go to Camargo and a person from Parral, that tourism is like saying, yours is better than ours. So it becomes really fun with them because they're so close to each other. But that kind of stuff is what makes it part of being sister cities.
Right.
Everybody becomes part of the sister city. So all of that, each town has their own. They'll have stuff at the conference. They'll have their booths, and they'll show you different. We asked them to bring, we call a platillo, an example of one of their famous plates that they serve in their town.
Okay.
So we want them to do that and cook with Karen Santamaria, who's doing the gastronomy booth, where we're actually televising the cooking with VIPs, and we want them to cook that plate with them as well because it's constant cooking for 2 days. So they'll have things going on all the time, cooking different plates. This one's from Guanajuato. This one's from Zacatecas. This one's from Delicias, or that kind of stuff. But now I'm making myself hungry,
right?
But because we get fed. We did a trip in June with 8 sister cities that are 8 of the ones that are coming in. And the mayor of San Isidro accompanied me. I always go on these trips, and people always ask me, well, next time you go, take me. So there's a bus of us arriving in Julimes to a conference, and I think there was 32 of us on this bus. So they hold 44, so if you get your name in first, you'll get to go. But she's like, oh my God, I've never tasted anything like that. Because we were eating in every single town, because we went to each one. But they were feeding us in these towns, and she was like, oh my God, what is this? And I said, you don't know what it is? And she looked at me like, wait a minute, what is this? And I said, it's Borrego. It's lamb. And she goes, I don't even like it, but what? She just finished telling me it's unbelievable. And she goes, I've never had it.
Yeah.
But you have it in your mind, But it was spectacular. So you go to each town, Mayoki, their meal was spectacular as well. Every one of them. Julimes had what they called a taquiza. And it was just and not just, but it was a bunch of different things that you could put in little tacos. So you go pick out you get the tortilla, and then you pick whatever you want and put it. It was like 8 different things you could stick in your taco. It was just spectacular things. Presentations are great. So you'll get to see a lot of that at the conference as well. And it gets inviting because people go over there and they come back. When they come back, they're like talking for weeks about what they ate there and how it was and how they were treated. And it's just amazing. And that's the idea of the sister city relationships, because tourists can come down. They're like, oh my God, in this town, oh my God. And then we got to this little town and oh my God. And that's all you hear from these people. And that's the idea of heritage tourism. When they come and they experience it, like you said, living museums. There's quite a few living museums, but those are all reenactments. But when you're getting the real thing, because we're still living on the Camino Real, and it's still happening today, all those traditions come out. Even the like the Tarumaras, you'll see them out there. They'll be doing typical stuff we were talking about. Desvino. It's an alcoholic beverage.
Right, yeah.
And, I mean, you get to experience that kind of stuff, So you experience that, you're going to tell somebody's going to say, hey, well, I'll go the next time. That's the way these trips that I take are now. It's like who can get on the list first to go. Because they know I'm going to take them somewhere that, what was it, Star Trek, I'm going where no man has gone before, So,
and investigating a lot of different
that kind of
topics
stuff
there,
is great, yeah.
Excellent. Here again, that's Al Borrego, again, talking about the upcoming 2022 Binational History Conference and Cultural Expose happening September 8th through the 11th. Want to find out the details about what we're talking about here and the program for it. Again, culturalheritagesociety.com here. I got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, talk a little bit more about what the features are going to be during this conference, a little bit more about, of course, the schedule here, and close out the show here. So stay tuned for more on the El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690. KTSM.
You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Givenbaney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archive pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry. Bring your family and out-of-town guests to visit Mission Del Rey Southwest's large showroom at Lee Trevino and Pelicano, and see their website at missiondelrey.com. 915-440-2140 for souvenirs, gifts, and decor. Mission Del Rey Southwest. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Doniphan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the Juan and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Doniphan, near Loop 375. Call 877-2152. M1 EP Management Corporation is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, invest in real estate. M1 EP manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the website, m1ep.com. M1ep.com.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. We have certainly covered a lot of ground in a lot of ways on a lot of the subjects that we delve into here today. And again, Al Borrego with the, of course, Cultural Heritage Society of the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro, and all the aspects of it here. And if you want to find out more about the details on that, again, their website, culturalheritagesociety.com. One aspect I didn't want to miss out on us talking about, of all the culture and connections that come along with this here, the tribes of the Camino Real, not just as a feature, but as their own subject to be explored here. What are y'all going to be talking about that? Again, you mentioned some about having some, entertainment, dancers, some cultural aspects here, but really delving into the history. What are the parts are y'all going to be looking at there?
Well, yeah, we want to have as many of the tribes be part of all these conferences as we go along. The Tiguas here in the El Paso County, we'll have them, of course, make their bread. They're part of our tour on the Sunday morning part of it, and we want to take them over to that center so they can see the actual museum, watch them baking the bread, and, of course, have dancers there as well. So we want to include all of the tribes. On the Mexican side, it's mainly the Raramuri. We know them as the Tarumaras. They're the main part of the tribes that were in the area. So those and some other Apaches, the Pimas and the Chiricahua, they were up in the northern part, but still coming into our area. So we want to include the tribes as far as this whole project. We want a sister city, the different tribes are along the way, all the way up north. I believe we counted 8 that are actually right on the Camino. So we want to add them to this whole package that we're putting together. So as we get up north and we start hitting the pueblos, that'll be, and we want to cover their heritage. We want to cover how far they come today. How do the casinos work? How has that gone for you? All of that kind of stuff. We want them to promote themselves. The whole idea is for all of these entities to promote what they have so that we can get tourists into that area. You look at how good is the UNESCO World Heritage inscription? Well, just ask any of those casinos. Do you think it's going to bring them more people? So absolutely. Once the tourism starts coming into play, they'll start traveling up and down that Camino, and they'll have plenty of things to see because now we identify these elements. So that's the idea with the tribes, is try to get them as part of this, because who doesn't want to know? Who doesn't want to go into a res? Who doesn't want to know what's going on, how they work, how the tribes work?
Absolutely here. So including them, a very crucial part of this, definitely. But again, it all kind of comes home to, again, the many aspects that you'll be exploring there. And again, with part of the agenda that we put up there, the Binational Heritage Tourism Tribes of the Camino Real Connections, Camino Real World Heritage, Gastronomy of the Camino Real, and Culture of the Camino Real. All those aspects are certainly important and will be getting explored all of those days across this here. We've gotten into a lot of depth on many of these different subjects here, but for anyone that may be, again, just unsure or unfamiliar about this, what do you tell them about, again, the importance and the way you're going about exploring these as part of that importance here, and why it should be done here today? I know we've talked a lot about the specifics here, but again, that kind of elevator pitch, I guess, if you kind of put it to someone who is like, okay, how and why they should get involved, what do you kind of tell them?
Well, I think it's all about the communities. I think each individual one has something to gain from it. They get to expose what they have to offer because they are on the Camino. I think it's very important. Community pride. They learn their own history. Even the city councils, as I deal with them on all these aspects, because they go through the city councils. As I deal with them, they're like, "Whoa, I didn't even know we had that. I never heard about that." And then all of a sudden, they're like, "Can you give us a tour of what we're seeing?" So I think all of that helps. It's at the end of the day, I think people see what they have. They start to learn about what they have. They start to get that pride, and they start to care. So it all works into the preservation of it. It all works into the promotion of it. So it all comes together, and that's part of one of our topics that we have on Saturday, where we have our round table. I have all of the players, the directors of tourism, the directors of economic development of different places, the Chamber of Commerce presidents. Those people will be part of that roundtable. The tourism coordinators, all of that, all of those people are on that roundtable, and that's where we'll hit them with those questions you're asking. So how does it work for you? Where do you think it's going to help you? And the ones that are already in, because we do have some that are already sister cities.
Sure.
Where has it helped you to be part of this project?
So some of both the testimony of it and how it's worked there.
Exactly.
But again, as you also mentioned more towards the beginning of the program, how the effort that is kind of at the core of this conference is anyway about the UNESCO recognition and inscriptions here, kind of following that blueprint that has already been done in southern reaches of the Camino route within Mexico itself here. But again, if people want to see this, they want to be a part of the conference, want to be able to participate in it, or even just experience it themselves, they're going to be happening in Juarez, in Socorro, San Eli, and online. How can they get involved? What do they need to do?
Well, all you got to do is get online, get the address. The main thing will be in Socorro, 901 Rio Vista at the Rio Vista Farm. The Rio Vista Farm in itself is under nomination as a National Historic Landmark. We only have one other one in El Paso County, and that's Waco Tanks.
Yeah.
So it's already been approved, I believe, there at the Rio Vista Farm, and it's just a matter of going through the process. So we're at a very historic spot. It's especially for El Paso County. That's why I said this is the perfect place to have this, because look what being historic gets you. It can get you to that point. All you got to do is explore what you have. And I can tell you, Socorro, for many years, didn't know what they had. Yeah. And now look where they're at. So they're growing really fast. So that's a perfect example of once you start exploring and investigating what you have, you don't realize exactly. I mean, all of these little towns, they all have so much to offer. And I think just being part of the project, it opens your eyes as a municipality, because we don't just include the government of each municipality. We bring in the chambers, we bring in hotel owners, entrepreneurs, we bring them in there. We bring out businessmen that like history, and you start meeting people along the way that are really interested in this, and they see the gains that it can bring them. So we put it together, and I think this is what the conference is. Now, don't forget, this conference is free.
Yes,
it's one of the most important things. It's free. I always forget to say it. It's free. It's free. It's free. And yeah, I mean, everything's free. Of course, you pay for your own food and stuff like that. Oh, well,
sure. Yeah.
But we will have a lot of other vendors in Socorro, community vendors. We'll have all of the food trucks and all that out there that you can get out there and taste as well. But under the big tent, we'll have the concentrated on the Camino Real. So all of that you'll see in there. We'll have, like the tribe will have a booth there. The county will have a booth there. Everybody and I didn't mention, like the wine, they'll have a booth there. And then they'll tell you the history of that winery and where it comes from and how they make it and what they do. The sotol, same thing. You'll get to taste it. You get to see it. And actually, the sotol has the actual private label Camino Real de Tierra Adentro edition. So they have that, and they'll tell you how it's made, where it comes from, all of that. Of course, we'll have Three Missions Brewery, and they'll tell you how they make the beer. And you can walk down the road there or drive down the road and have a beer there at the winery, at the brewery there in Socorro. And then we'll have tequila. They'll also do that on the Mexican side. They'll tell you about their tequila. So you get it's educational, it's cultural, and it's got a lot of history behind it.
Absolutely here. So again, that coming up September 8th to the 11th, all the details, culturalheritagesociety.com. So again, Al Borrego having joined us here for both hours of the program here. Thank you very much for talking to us about all these aspects of history and how people can experience them, coming up here shortly here today. Thank you very much here. Back next week with more here on the El Paso History Radio Show. You all have a great weekend. We'll be out of Pepe's this weekend, but we'll see you next week with more here on the El Paso History Radio Show. Have a great weekend, y'all.